What is up? You have found the Ryan Whitledge Show. I'm your administrative assistant, Brandon Goldner, and with me, here's Ryan.
Do I come in with an axe? Do I chop down the doors?
That's right. Yeah. I guess that was a play on Johnny Carson. Which is what I just did. So I guess that makes perfect sense.
It totally did not come off as a play on Johnny Carson. It came off on, oh crap, why am I blanking on it? Jack Nicholson, The Shining. There we go. That's how I heard it in my head.
No, and I think that's fair because that is where they got it from. So yeah, I guess it all comes, time is a flat circle after all. There's actually an interesting Einstein quote. Oh, I wish I had it up. I'm going to miss it now. It came in a TV show we were watching yesterday. It's something like, we have time so that everything doesn't happen all at once. And that really hit me hard for some reason. I was like, whoa, like, I don't know. Like I had one of those like stoner bro moments like, whoa, it's so true. It's like, if you don't have time, then every event that has ever happened or ever will would all happen simultaneously. So yeah, time is a flat circle after all. Quote Albert Einstein, quote Michael Scott, quote Brandon Goldner. Love it. Anyway, how are you doing?
The exact quote is, the only reason for time is so that everything doesn't happen at once. There you go.
That was pretty close though. I mean, it was pretty
close.
Okay, thank you. That was pretty close.
Live fact checking.
It's easy to do with me because I'm wrong so often. Preview for another conversation we're going to have. How are you doing, Ryan? It's good to see you.
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. Sports is back. I'm sitting here in my NFL kicked off on Thursday. The Bucs absolutely destroyed the Cowboys. Well, not absolutely destroyed. It was a close game, but anytime the Cowboys lose, I'm fucking ecstatic. Patriots are playing later today. Oregon absolutely destroyed Ohio State yesterday. If you were a better alum, you would know that your Beavers beat Hawaii State instead of being out.
I knew that.
You knew it, but did you watch it?
Didn't watch it. I know that if they win 5 more games, that they have a bowl game berth. See, I kind of sort of follow. The only type of football I ever did follow in my life was college football. It was because I lived in Corvallis, so I know a little bit. Yeah.
So no, I'm jacked. This is a lot of people always make the joke like when their singular sport starts or whatnot, like they have to apologize to the spouse of, honey, you're not going to see me for a while. Granted, for me, that's mostly the basketball season when you're getting a game every other night. But for me, my sports season starts at the minute that football starts. So I get that very wide range and I at least luck out too, because my wife is a massive football fan. So yesterday we were sitting on the couch, her and I were both watching the Oregon Ohio State game and yelling and cheering about that. She's got her Seahawks that kick off here in about 50 minutes, so she'll be sitting down with her Coors Light and her Seahawks gear watching that. I was going to say, because I suggested that we start at 10. You're like, nope, 10 o'clock there'll be football throughout the house. Can we do it at 9? And I was like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, big football house over there. Oh yeah. No. Okay. And so then Patriots kick off at 1:30. That I'm going to have to go on the hunt for on the internet, because being a fan of an East Coast team sucks, because even though it says 1:25 kick on CBS, they're playing the Dolphins. That's not being broadcast on the West Coast. Instead, we get Browns, Kansas City out here for that game on CBS. So I got to go into the depths of the internet on that. But normally
you can figure it out. Aren't the Browns really good though this year? Like, shout out to CJ McCollum. I know he always talks about the Browns.
They are very sneaky. I think they'll win the division. I think they might. I do have a slight little bet on them to make the playoffs. So I think they will be good. They will be decent. But I thought I heard
that they're like really good.
They have a really good team. If they can actually put it together and be a really good team, is yet to be decided. But I think they got a shot. But normally around football, like if both of our teams are playing at the same time, the wife will normally she'll watch her Seahawks in the bedroom. I'll normally claim the living room. I will usually drag out another TV, set it up, and stream the Red Zone so I can catch everything that's going on. Yeah, I'm big sports fan. I mean, again, the sports hutch behind me is just filled with everything. So, on top of that, you got the Mariners that are actually having a chance to sneak into a wild card spot. I think they're a game and a half, 2 games back after their loss last night to the Diamondbacks of making it into the wild card, ending sports' longest drought for a playoff appearance. So,
wow. I mean, I have to admit though, that's cool and all, but I have to admit that it's moments like these that I'm glad that I only like basketball, because this would be too much. It would be too much for me to follow. It'd be too much for me to get emotionally invested in. And I'm just kind of picturing your house looking like there's a real estate listing of like a bookie's house in Las Vegas that hit the internet the other week. And there was like 7 TVs in the kitchen and like 5 TVs in the bathroom and like 12 TVs in the living room. I'm just imagining your house just has like TVs like plastered in every room, including when you're trying to take a poop.
I'm trying to avoid that. So I got the window right over there, and above the window, what you can't see is that I have a giant projector screen mounted. And this is the season where I am trying to figure out how to get our projector to where I can have it be like 6 or 7 different feeds in one projector screen. So that, almost, let's call it like the Buffalo Wild Wings or the sportsbook style,
basically the Matrix at this point. You're just running lines of code and you're following everything simultaneously.
Yes. But
it's
again,
picture in picture is what you're trying to go for.
But again, my wife is a giant sports fan as well, so she doesn't necessarily mind. The only thing, this is her biggest complaint, and doing podcasts such as this is part of why it's her complaint. She claims I killed her love of the Blazers.
Oh, that's sad.
Because of how much I am into them, because of how much she hears about them, how much I watch them. She used to love them with a passion. She still likes them, still follows. It's cute during the basketball season. She will try to like stay up on breaking news and see if she can tell me something that I don't know. It's maybe happened once in a blue moon, but she cannot physically watch a Blazers game with me in the house. I clap too loud. I yell too loud. I pace too much. I scream. I get into like this squatting position on the floor where I'm going back and forth when it's a close game. I am just so into it. Blazers are still my number one. But other than that, like I said, I love it. Football started. Sports is back. Fucking bring it on.
You're happy. Speaking of the Blazers, I am stoked. What came in the little mail call this week is this Damian Lillard Team USA jersey. Probably a knockoff, to be honest. Like I told you before we recorded, there's this tweet that went out after the Olympics. You can get these jerseys for like $30. And I was like, $30? And it had been a while since I had ordered it. And I kind of forgot about it. I'm like, where is that order? How is it doing? And so like a month and a half later, it finally came. It says Lillard. It appears to be a jersey. It came.
They spelled USA right.
They spelled USA correctly. The flag has, the correct number of stars at 50 stars, 13 stripes. So
the Nike swoosh is the right direction.
It had the tag.
It may not be a knockoff.
It might not. It had the tag on it that had the little holographic thing. So anyway, the thing that's cool about this jersey, and I hate to say this, but if Damian Lillard were to not be on the Portland Trailblazers, I could still I could still rock this jersey because it's a Lillard Team USA jersey. So this will never go out of style. It never expires. I'm super happy about it. I did want to bring up one more thing, though, and we can bring up other stuff too. But before we move on to the actual show, I want to preview a conversation that we're going to have at some point. You can cut me off.
We already started arguing about it off the air.
Off the air, on Twitter. I put on Twitter my potential predictions for the Blazers season. And what I did was I put a range of different outcomes. And here's the thing. We're not going to get into it right now because I know that we don't have time. I get that. However, I want us to all think about the fact that when we're trying to think about whether something may or may not happen, and there are many different contingencies that include injuries to your own team, that include injuries to other teams, that includes development or non-development, again, from your team or other teams, there's so many different butterfly effects that here's my argument for having a range. We'll talk about it more on a different show. It's that there's this range within which I would not be surprised. So to me, that's what it is. Would I be surprised if they got X number of games? Would I be surprised if they got X plus 10 number of games? That's my rationale in a nutshell. We'll argue about it more, but I had to get it out because people are roasting me. You were roasting me on Twitter. People are roasting me. Oh, it's because you're indecisive. It's because you don't want to pick on a number. You don't want to be wrong. And like, if you know me, I honestly don't give a shit whether I'm right or wrong. It's more about the process. So I don't know if you have a thought about that. I know that we're not talking about it today, but just wanted to say it.
But the quick caveat for something for you to just chew on, because you wanted to do predictions talk today. They don't even have.
I wanted to do it last episode. You vetoed it. You had a better idea. Then I wanted to do it today, and you're like, no, I already made an outline. So I've been up since 2 a.m. We'll talk about it at some point.
Or 6 today. I slept in a bit, but no.
That's a late sleeping for you.
It is. I've been up. I've done things. There's laundry over there to fold, but no. My one little caveat. I'll give you a smidge. if you can narrow down your range. The range that you threw out on Twitter was a 12-game span. Dude, that's
totally reasonable.
That is the difference between a top first place seed in your conference and being the 12th
Playing.
seed. Having that big of a range, I understand that that's reasonable.
Yes.
But are you willing to, if you want to go with a range, narrow it down to a 5-game window?
So I will take your question and I will table it. I'll think about it because I do want to get into this. I also want to create a written piece that goes beyond the range that I suggested. I want to create a written piece that goes to like the 95th percentile. And I think the reason why I'm thinking about this is I thought a lot about polling and predictions, right? Like we've all
channeling your inner Nate Silver.
Channeling my inner Nate Silver, who, by the way, my respect for Nate Silver has cratered during COVID.
Down the toilet.
Speaking of people who just smell their own farts, I liked him anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that one thing I do agree with how he approaches political polls is that if you're 4 months out from an election, right, things could happen. There could be news, economic news, other
emails.
Emails, all sorts of things. You could have a global pandemic that makes the likely outcome shift and change, and even stuff depending on where you live and how easy it is to vote. The weather could change voting. So I think it makes sense. It's like, okay, like there's like an 80% chance it's going to fall between here and here. And from that, you can pick a number. So I picked a gun to my head number for the Blazers, which I think right now, I think I put it at 49. But that doesn't mean that there's not. So we'll talk more about this later. I thank you for letting me get some of this out because I'd been holding it inside. I just think that people should broaden their thinking. First of all, around what may be likely and just being comfortable with that. And then second of all, you're not going to be right. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. Your predictions are going to be wrong. Your analysis is going to be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about Coach Billups. Maybe I'm wrong about Anthony Simons. And that's totally okay. To me, it's more about what was the process of getting there. That's what's interesting to me. I like thinking about that stuff and considering it. It's like putting Legos together in your mind. Doesn't matter if the thing collapses after. You have to rebuild them. It's fine. So that's my point. Appreciate you letting me get it out and just wanted to say that.
Okay. You're still wrong, but
God damn it, Ryan. All right. What is next on the agenda?
All right. So we got a couple little segments. We're going to break this down, go a little bit of Mike Richmond style today. In the first segment that we're going to talk about, I have appropriately titled this the tickle trunk of topics.
The what?
The tickle trunk of topics.
What the fuck is it? Bro, what is a tickle trunk? What are you talking about?
It is a trunk.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
I'm also not the creator of it. I'm not going to lie. I'm stealing this from Prime Time with Isaac and Suk on 1080. They occasionally, they either have their grab bag or their tickle trunk.
Wait, isn't that from Hook? Is that what that's from Peter Pan?
If it is, I haven't seen that movie in about a decade. So, but either way, in regards to sports, there is a trunk of topics, and you grab little topics out as you reach in, and they're just little topics that tickle your fancy. Hence, a tickle trunk of topics.
Okay, what is a tickle trunk? To many kids, a box filled with clothes is simply a dress-up box. But if you're a kid in Canada between 1967 and 1996, it was a tickle trunk, a magical portal to a world powered primarily by imagination. Wow. That is really weird. That apparently comes from a show called Mr. Dress-Up that was a Canadian kids show. So basically, the Canadian Mr. Rogers had a really weird trunk, and he put kids in it, and it's weird, and I'm uncomfortable. But continue explaining.
That's a weird explanation. I'm going to fact check that. My mother-in-law is Canadian, so I may be able to get a first-hand account on that and check back and
ask her what are they talking about? What are they talking about when they say tickle trunk?
Hey, also throwing a boot there. My people are from Minnesota, so you're throwing
Minnesota.
some shit.
I was just in Minnesota.
At me.
I was just in Minnesota for a wedding. It was outdoors. It was safe. Everyone wore a mask.
You know what's funny? I live there. I know we already had our branch intersection, but what's funny, and my wife and kids want to see it. We want to go back. I haven't brought them back to visit my family out in Minnesota in a while. But
what part of Minnesota?
I grew up in Stillwater, which is just a little bit south of St. Paul, Minneapolis, but most of my family lives out in either Forest Lake or the Maplewood area. So all around the Twin Cities general area, within a stone's throw there.
Fair enough.
But if I am back there for more than 3 days, my accent comes back, because I lived there long enough as a kid to develop the accent. And so, I mean, I moved out here to the Pacific Northwest. I was born out here, moved to Minnesota, and was out there until I was about 7 or 8, and then moved back. So during the developmental aspects of my speech, I got the accent. So if I'm back around my people, it comes back.
I have to say this. I know we're a little off. I think you should embrace that. I think you should purposely bring the accent back. I think the Minnesota accent is one of the most interesting, coolest accents you can have, frankly.
I've tried, but it comes off as me sounding fake. It would have to be one of those things where it's if I went back there and I stayed back there. Deep immersion
in the culture.
And was out there for the week and it started coming back, I would have to actually think about it when I came back home here to maintain it.
To keep it rolling. All right. That's fair.
Anyways.
Minnesota was cool. It was actually sunny and nice. We got to be on a lake. It was good stuff. Summer Minnesota. Strong recommend.
Depends on how you feel about hummingbird-sized mosquitoes. If you were on a lake, that's dangerous in the summer. Just
no mosquitoes. Amazingly, there were some cicadas. The mosquito level was pretty low. I got like a couple, but it wasn't anything. Like, I would say the mosquitoes, when you go hiking in the Cascades during the summer and those like glacial melt lakes, those are like mosquito bomb fests that like I have never seen more mosquitoes than those. So maybe I just hit it at the right time. Anyway, good job, Minnesota.
So into the tickle trunk. So this is just going to be random little. Yeah, let's go into the tickle trunk, Brandon.
No, I don't want to go in the tickle trunk. It sounds weird, and I'm already scared.
Don't worry, this is a safe place. So in my tickle trunk of topics, the first one here that I got off the bat, Dame got married. Damian Lillard and Kayla got married. Kaylee, dang it. What? Now I'm blanking. Anyways. Him and his fiance, they tied the knot. It looked like a fantastic freaking wedding. You know, I follow her on Instagram. She's a great follow. She actually follows me back. So I don't know, backdoor on if I ever want to get it. Should I slide into her DMs as a connection to Dame? I don't know.
Can you get Dame on the show, please? But they had some vertical grass. They had these like vertical plant things people are taking pictures in front of. Dame had multiple outfits. Yeah, it looked like quite the...
And all of which neither you or I could ever dream to pull off.
No, I saw someone making fun of someone for Dame, like wearing something that was like low cut with pearls. And I'm like, you're just jealous. Like, he can pull it off and you can't. Kind of reminds me, actually, yesterday, Russell Westbrook dropped some pictures of him wearing a skirt. He looked really, really good. And anyone making fun of him is like, A, jealous, and B, insecure. Like, fashionable dude.
So you're calling me jealous and insecure. I don't understand. I don't understand any modern day fashion. I'm a hoodie and shorts guy. That's 90% of my wardrobe. So I have no room to comment there. I saw that Russell Westbrook thing and I was like, what the fuck is that?
Here's what I'll say, and I know this is not a fashion show, but like my girlfriend and I have watched quite a bit of Project Runway, and one of the classic tensions you're familiar with the show, maybe if you haven't watched it, but
yes.
One of the classic tensions is between the designer's technical skill and their ability to kind of creatively push fashion forward. And so something I think that NBA players and sports, figures in general enjoy doing is pushing fashion forward. And part of pushing fashion forward is to take stuff that hasn't been done before and trying it out. So it's like, is it that you're wearing like a vest and no shirt with pearls on? Is it that you're wearing combat boots with a skirt and you've colored your hair? Like, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, like it looks kind of funky or like you haven't seen it before. But if you do that enough times, eventually you'll kind of run into combinations like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Then you take that and it spins off into something else. And that is how you progress art or music or fashion or name the thing, right? So you take something, you jumble it together and create something new. So props to them. I think it's cool.
Okay.
You couldn't pull it off because you have chicken legs, but that's your problem, not theirs.
These calves, dude, these things. It's always leg day in this house.
Really?
Hey,
you're always doing leg day, huh?
You be in construction and have to haul up 85 gallons of paint up 7 stories. And
that's a good point.
You tell me what leg day's like.
That's fair. No, that's totally fair.
But in Dame's wedding, did you happen to like I found myself as the pictures were coming out, like dissecting the guest list. For one, most shocking to me, Jake Layman. Out of all former teammates and whatnot, if you had to ask me, are Damian Lillard and Jake Layman good enough friends for him to get that exclusive wedding invite? I would have bet no, but there's Jake enjoying it with his beautiful wife. I believe, yes, he is married. Yes, he is. Yeah. That one I know. His beautiful wife, Myers Leonard, made an appearance. That was cool to see. Hey, he's uncanceled. Have you seen some of it?
Yeah, I don't know if he is uncanceled.
He's making legit headway. The one thing I will give him is that when he was on his, I don't know, information, fact-finding, forgiveness
his sabbatical.
Tour. Yes.
Continue. I haven't thought about this.
Okay, but he was not at the time promoting it. He came out and made a big statement after the fact.
Not only that, he had built up. Clearly, he had built up all the stuff he wanted to share. It felt very stilted to me. And here's the thing: I don't disagree that. I think that, like, we all know he uttered a racist expletive, xenophobic, racist, however you want to describe it. I don't deny
anti-Semitic,
anti-Semitic, to be more precise. I don't deny that he did that sort of absent-mindedly. I don't think he did that out of malice. I don't think that. I do think that he wanted to make amends. So I do want to give him some credit for that. Like, it was out of ignorance. I think it's also reflective of the circles that he keeps close, that would be in his vocabulary. Like, I think that says something about him.
Well, I'll not necessarily the circles that he keeps close, but I don't know how much like online gaming you do. My son is getting more and more into it. And so I always maintain that, like, this microphone that I use is also the gaming microphone. If he wants to chat or whatnot, he plugs that into the PlayStation, he can use that. But my rule is no headphones, because I want to hear the things that he hears. Yeah. And there's been a couple times where I've had to pull him off to the side and be like, these are, that is not, it's not like I'm giving a crap about, like, if he's hearing F-bombs or all that stuff. But like, if he hears words like with what Myers Leonard said, there's a lot of that's in gaming culture that's ingrained. And so if we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt per se on there's that ignorance, I don't necessarily put it with the social circle. I put it with that kind of unfiltered gaming culture, which does come off a lot like how, social media and the internet is. You have this sense of anonymity behind a screen name. In this case, instead of being words on a screen, you're just a voice. You feel as though you have this freedom to say whatever. So there is that kind of stuff that if you grow up in that gaming culture, some of those things do become ingrained. And so I did kind of buy when he's like, it's words I've heard before, and I didn't think to look at their meaning. So with that, but that's just
fair.
My take on that.
That's fair. And so the last thing I'll say about him, and I'm spending too much time on this, it felt very calculated. It felt calculated that he took a break from social media. It felt calculated that he shared all this stuff after. It felt calculated. Like, I wonder what's the appropriate amount of time to then cut. Like, it just, there's something about it that I don't know. So
I won't lie. He probably wanted to do it privately in his own or whatnot and stay off social media with it. But now that it's coming up on a season, he doesn't have a contract. He doesn't have a team. There's a PR. There's a PR person behind it that says, "Hey, you did all these things. Let's put it out there. Get it." And I guess
known. I agree with you. And I guess I can't blame him. Like he wants to play basketball. Okay. Anyway, Myers Leonard was there. Here's something, kind of a notable omission, but it could be that this person didn't want to be photographed. Where was Terry Stotts? So do you think he was there and he wasn't photographed? Like, I think that's a possibility, but I was actually kind of surprised to not see him pop up. I don't know. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I would imagine that he was there. And because, I mean, you've been married before, we've planned weddings. You don't come up with a guest list at the last minute, especially a big fancy wedding like this. Terry Stotts was let go 3 months ago. I'm going to guess that Dame and his fiance had a guest list and had this planned and everything more than 3 months ago. He was, and with how close they were, I'm going to assume, like, especially if David Vanderpool was going to be there, that Terry Stotts would be there. But I'm guessing everything that I've seen from Stotts outside of, when his name was popping up in coaching interviews, he's kept a low profile, and he's normally been a low profile. I've always gotten the sense that when he's had to do promotional stuff, when he was with the Blazers, it was a little bit forced. It wasn't as genuine, like it was his idea. He strikes me as a guy who just likes to hang in the background.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't be surprised if it was kind of intentional, like, oh, everyone knows who I am. They know that I was the coach and I'm no longer the coach, and that you have a new coach. And so to see the old coach at the wedding, but not the new coach, because I wouldn't imagine Chauncey Billups wouldn't have been invited because Dame and him don't have a relationship, but he's the new coach. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it was like an intentional optics thing. It's like, don't photograph me here, but I'm going to bet, I think if you asked Terry Stotts, I bet you he was there. Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and I think Myers Leonard posted a video on his social media, which was funny because Myers Leonard was behind Zach Collins, and you just see Zach Collins, this towering person, and then his short little girlfriend right next to him, and then like this row of short people behind Zach Collins. I'm like, Zach Collins is the worst person to sit behind for a wedding. You can't see anything. But there was a couple. There was one that was like off on the side where it kind of looked like the back of Stotts' head or whatnot. So I'm going to think he's there. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. But again, in going down the photos from there, everybody's like, oh, Draymond Green was there. This is Dame recruiting Draymond Green. Tim Frazier, who's Dame's always said is one of his best friends there. I didn't realize that he was as close with DeMar DeRozan because, he was there, and a lot of former teammates and whatnot. Ed Davis, Maurice Harkless, Al Farouk Aminu, did not see him there. But yeah, it was just this fun little hodgepodge of people. Somebody else that was there that also then decided to, and I thought this was a social faux pas. You're not supposed to step on somebody else's day. But CJ McCollum took that opportunity to announce that him and his wife are expecting a child. And she looks to be about 3-ish months along. So they've been sitting on that news for a while, if I'm going to judge by a baby bump.
Yeah, the timing was a little bit, maybe, and again, maybe it was a thing that's like, well, we're going to be out in public, so we can't not say something. I think that was probably
we're in a dress. Yeah, we're in a dress. She can't just like stand behind him the whole time.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So I guess I don't knock him for that. Yeah, good for Dame. Glad that he's married. Seems like a dope family. Very happy for them. Look like a giant party. Look like a lot of fun.
Snoop Dogg and Common are there.
Yeah, I saw a lot of outdoor stuff happening. Yeah. So
just imagine
mindful of that.
Just imagine how much bigger of a wedding Dame could have had if, he was actually in a bigger market where he could get any attention.
Oh my God. That party was exactly as big as he wanted it to be and no bigger. Like no matter where it was.
So congratulations to Dame and his new blushing bride. Congratulations to CJ and technically his new blushing bride. I think they just got married not too long ago. So, them expecting. And so we'll pivot from that to a little bit of sad news.
Mr. and Dr. McCollum, right? Because she is a DDS, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Very good.
And
I always like that too. Actually, it would be Dr. and Mr. McCollum.
Correct.
That's what I was looking for.
Ryan Green is married to a doctor. And when he got married, it was introduced Mr. and Mrs. Green. And now when they are formally introduced, because I've been at events where they require to be formally introduced, it is Dr. Green and Mr. Ryan Green.
I love that. I think that's the coolest thing ever. It's like you being a doctor supersedes any gender norms that we've had about who's, honorarium comes first. I am all for it. I think that's dope.
Yep. So we move from that and we reach back into the tickle trunk of topics to find that a person.
I fucking hate that. I hate it so much.
To talk about something that we broached last time, but LaMarcus Aldridge decided to, again, he officially came out of retirement from his heart condition, got that checked out, and we had slightly speculated that, hey, we got this extra roster spot, maybe we do need some tall people, but he went back to the Nets, so zero shock and surprise there. They think the Nets waived DeAndre Jordan. It's fine.
And he went to the Lakers, picked him up, right?
Correct. I was reading something the other day. I think it was like if Andrew Bynum, it was either Andrew Bynum or Lamar Odom, one of those two. I think it was Andrew Bynum. If Andrew Bynum came out of retirement and decided to re-sign with the Lakers, he would be one of the youngest players on that team, and he's been retired for like 8 years.
Yeah, they're old. And this will get into when we go to in a different episode to predictions and stuff. But they are old.
Yeah,
they're like the average age of their projected rotation players is like as old as me or right around there, which is like I'm not old, but I'm old for an NBA player. Like that's a little frightening.
That is the thing, is that we keep calling them the geriatric Lakers squad, and then you look at the ages and you're like, I'm not
old.
That's my age range.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good for LaMarcus Aldridge. I also speaking of doctors, my partner is a doctor. And so whenever there's like a medical related thing, I kind of ask her, hey, what about this? And this one is particularly prescient because Cassie is interested in cardiology, right? And so this is kind of right in her wheelhouse, and particularly the electrophysiology side of cardiology, which is like exactly what this syndrome is, Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. It's we've talked about before. It's when your heart is sending the electric signal to tell your heart to beat. It's supposed to go down a very specific pathway, that electrical signal. This syndrome is when that signal kind of gets branched off. And so your heart can have palpitations, which is what LaMarcus Aldridge is experiencing, which is when the heart beats off rhythm. It just contracts the heart in the wrong place. I asked her about this. I'm like, hey, he's had this before when he was first with the Blazers. It came up again. I basically said, like, how dangerous is it for him to play? And she's like, oh, not dangerous at all. Like this is a very treatable, it may produce syndromes again in the future. This is not something that because of this syndrome that he's at any risk of dropping dead on the court. This is not something where it's not that he has congestive heart failure. It's not like it's a valve problem. So I'm not a doctor, so this is not medical advice, but all this is just to say for people who are worried about his health. You're
a person talking about medical stuff on YouTube. That qualifies you as a doctor nowadays.
Boom, right there. You can ignore all of the accumulated medical science and just listen to me, Brandon Goldner. Isn't that how it works nowadays with some people? Yep. That you can rest easy to know that he will be okay. And it was obviously scary, right, when he was experiencing heart palpitations. I've experienced that once in my life, and it was terrifying. I don't know why it happened. It never happened again. Apparently, that's something that almost everybody at some point in their lives will experience this. It will come up and then it'll just go away and it won't happen again, or it happens very rarely. But, when you have this syndrome, it happens frequently. It's scary. He's going to be fine. So good for him. I mean, how did you feel about him going to the Nets? Do you feel a certain way about it, or you're just like, oh, good for you?
I thought it would have been like a cool little story if he had come back to the Blazers. I wouldn't have minded it because, we do have an okay amount of bigs, but none of them that don't have an injury history or whatnot. So but then again, my feelings. I'd much rather have a veteran backup point guard on the roster than another tall person. So
Dennis Smith Jr.
He's in this tickle trunk. Don't you worry. We'll tickle Dennis Smith Jr.
I don't want you to tickle anybody. Hands off. Consensual tickling only. Maybe he likes being tickled. Who knows? Anyway.
Well, he does like to slang that wood in his pants. That's for sure.
That was quite the tweet. You might have to give some context for people who don't know what you're talking about, because I do.
Oh gosh. I'm going to have to.
He as you're searching for it, looks like that's what you're doing. Dennis Smith Jr., as many young men do, they say things on Twitter before they become rich and famous. And it just so happens that Dennis Smith Jr. made a tweet. I think it's when he was in high school, ? Or maybe he was early college.
It's from back in 2012. So I think he was basic math. I want to say he was 14 at the time, something around there.
So yeah, high school. Yep.
But he wanted everybody to know that everybody has God-given talents. Mine just so happens to be slanging this wood in my pants.
Wow. Welcome to Portland, Dennis Smith Jr. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like something a 14-year-old would say. So, good for him. I'm just glad that Twitter didn't exist when I was 14. I would be in deep shit. Deep shit.
Yeah.
We had America Online Instant Messenger. We had AIM, right? So we had you had to put your away messages on. Remember those? All
the conversations I had in there with some girlfriends at the time. I remember. Thank God those didn't get cataloged.
I remember very distinctly that my friend and I had a next door neighbor, shout out to Brian Price, that we created an account name for AIM called BZerk13. But here's the rub, Ryan, we were only 12. So we were pretending to be 13-year-olds. And I just remember we're going to act like we're older. And older meant exactly 1 year older.
You hooligans.
I know, right? Like it was a wild and crazy time.
All right. I'm reshuffling the tickle trunk here. I'm going to scooch one of these things off to the side because while we're talking about Dennis Smith Jr.,
You're just trying to see how many times you can say the word tickle trunk in the show, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Anyway, so with this, in this, I'll grab this out of the tickle pickle trunk. So the Blazers signed a couple players to training camp deals. It was very fascinating to watch social media react to some of these signings as though people were saying, oh, the Blazers have signed this player. No, these are all training camp deals. So Dennis Smith Jr., who is a point guard, Marquese Chriss, a center forward, and most recently Patrick Patterson. Jason Quick had the reporting a long time ago that the Blazers were going to keep their final roster spot open and only carry 14 players plus two-way. And I believe they only have one person under a two-way contract at the moment. None of these players, Dennis Smith Jr., Marquese Chriss, or Patrick Patterson, meet the requirements to be signed to a two-way deal. They're too veteran per se, but in Quick's
age
reporting,
discrimination, that's all that is, pure and simple.
Hey, that's a collectively bargained years of service thing with the NBA PA. So bring that up with CJ if you got any qualms with that.
President McCollum.
But yeah, so it was said that they'll bring in these veteran players and they'll let them battle it out, and regardless of position, they'll take the best player. If you want to look at Neil Olshey's history of how he kind of does business, these were all signed deals for these training camp invites. It's normally who got the money first, that's the person the spot goes to. He tends to, pay out his loyalty. So I believe in this case, it was Dennis Smith Jr.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at having him, and all he is an insurance on if, God forbid, one of the 19 guards on this roster goes down.
I mean, you were asking for a backup point guard. He's a backup point guard. And I think, okay, the biggest thing with him, and I know this has, been talked about a lot now, it's not a secret anymore. He played really good defense when he was in Detroit. I mean, there's like this 2-minute clip of just him playing on ball perimeter defense. Mm-hmm. He looked like Patrick Beverley. I mean, he looked really, really good. He moved quickly. He reacted quickly. He was in the right place. He was cutting people off. He was getting strips and pokeaways. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that he's going to be like an impact player, but when you look at someone like,
it's good situationally to have.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that's the exact, you could, excuse me, you could use him in certain spots for sure. I'm choking on my coffee here. Like the same way that the Blazers used Rondé Hollis-Jefferson in some lineups and he looked good for small stretches, I think the same could be said of Dennis Smith Jr. There's some upside here. I really do believe that. I don't know. Like I have to say, like, of all of the signings the Blazers have made, the gap between what you expect them to do and what I think they may be able to do, even though that's not like the biggest impact in the world, I think that gap is probably widest with Dennis Smith Jr. because I think he could actually work his way into being like an NBA player. I think he could prolong his career if he plays his cards right, if he's given the opportunity. And I mean, particularly for someone like Billups, like, talk about defense all the time. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it might be a good fit for him.
Well, and when he was on the Mavs, because I believe the Mavs drafted him, he wasn't really that good of a defensive player. And
Not
he was
at all.
A serviceable offensive player. And as the story goes, is that then when he got to Detroit and in the offseason, he decided, hey, I need a good skill, and decided to hang his hat on learning to be a defensive pest. And we've seen plenty of players throughout the league that have had prolonged careers, a lot of guys that are serviceable that can pick up vet min contracts or work their way onto a roster and keep their playing days going by having that, being a defensive specialist and whatnot. So it kind of sounds like that's the direction he's going, where he wants to hang his hat on it, and this is kind of, we'll see what he can give to the Blazers and if he ends up making that final roster spot.
I think that's great. And let me ask a quick clarifying question about where the Blazers stand with number of players and kind of the NBA rules. So my understanding is that they can carry no more than 15 players, but they need to have a minimum of, is it 13 or 14?
You need to have a minimum of 14. And I think they may have extended the COVID rules. They were allowed 17.
Interesting.
Last year, plus a two-way. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, more than willing to accept that. But I believe because of COVID protocols and players being able to miss things, that they increased the number of roster spots that you could carry. But yes, there is a floor. You can carry 13, but you have to pay a penalty for it. So 14 is the minimum that you have to carry. And then, like I said, after that, you're allowed two-way contracts. So,
and I think also that the other piece of this too, the Blazers would prefer not to be in the tax this year, and I think that
too late.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so they were over the tax by about I want to say $3 million or so. I can pull it up. When Derek Jones Jr. was on the team, and so trading him away, Larry Nance Jr. makes a little more money, and so. But it all tallies up of when the league year is over.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
The Blazers
they still have time to get under it.
They can trade under it, but the thing is that instead of looking at a contract like Derek Jones Jr. to throw away to get under it, which was at least in my mind, a strong possibility. You're now looking at contracts like Nurk and Rocco to get under that. So I got into a little bit of a debate, coming up, whatnot. I was talking, and, not debate, but we we're just having a discussion a little bit with Eric and Tori on Twitter. I'm talking about would the Blazers want to, and Dave Deckard has a great piece. We'll skip on how you feel about the now being attacked Blazers edge, which I find hilarious. He has a great piece breaking down what the ramifications are on if the Blazers are not able to get under the luxury tax line this year. They enter the repeater tax, and how the repeater tax works is if it's any out of the last 3 of the 4 seasons, any combination of that, if you hit that, you become a repeater. So you look at the Blazers salary next year, they have 4 to 5 players under contract, and that's already pushing $100+ million. If you want any semblance of a good roster in the coming seasons, unless the Blazers come out of the gate just ball busters and then the organization doesn't care about paying these repeater taxes, a la Golden State, you want them to get under the tax, because if they're under the tax even by $1 this year, this avoids them being the repeater, and then they can overpay without that exponential penalty. And if you want a grasp of how strict that penalty is, I mean, it gets to the point where if you sign a vet minimum player for $2, $3, $4 million, that $2, $3, $4 million is now actually costing $12, $13, $16 million. So that's the impact that has.
Right. And really quick, next year, you have Dame, CJ, Norm under contract. You have Nas Little has a team option. Anthony Simons is a restricted free agent with a $12 million cap hold. And then you have Yusuf Nurkic has a team option partially guaranteed for next year. The point is that the Blazers are, like you said, they're in a tough spot. And my point with all of these kind of roster spots and who's going to be where is that they're probably going to have fewer players than more. So all of this is really to say that if they pick up Dennis Jones Jr., there's probably not room for Marquese Chriss and probably not room for Patrick Patterson. But here's what I wanted to say, and I wanted your opinion on this too.
Real quick, who are you reading those salaries off from?
The Dunked On podcast cap
Yusuf
sheet.
Nurkic does not have a cap hold. Sport Track or Sport Rack, however you want to, they have the way better breakdown. And so under contract next year, you have Dame, CJ, Norm, Larry Nance Jr., Nasir Little, and Greg Brown. Those are all your players. The only dead/retained cap is, I believe, the final year of Andrew Nicholson at 2.84. There are the potential for qualifying offers to Anthony Simons, CJ Ellaby, Trenton Watford, and an incomplete roster charge. And that is all the holds. There is no Yusuf Nurkic minimum qualifying offer. That was for this year. There is nothing on the books for any other player than those ones I mentioned with dollar values. And just with that and cap space and holds, that puts them at basically $108 million against what is projected to be a $115 million cap.
I thought that Nurkic had a partial, I guess that was for this year.
Yep.
Okay. So let me rephrase something really quick. If the Blazers, he's an unrestricted free agent. Sorry. Okay. So you're right. I'm just going to go with what you're saying. I'm just going to stop talking. The point being, though, is that they're probably not going to pick up both Jones Jr. and Marquese Chriss, or both Jones Jr. and Patrick Patterson. That's not likely for
Smith Jr.
Thank you. So many juniors have Gary Trent Jr., you have Jones Jr., you have Smith. Too many juniors.
Nance Jr.
Pick a different name. Just pick a different name. Like no Brandon Juniors, no Ryan Juniors. Pick a different name. But here is my question to you, or statement / something. The Blazers, the way they filled out their roster, it feels like a poor man's Los Angeles Lakers, where instead of having these like marginal level rotation players coming in at a minimum, you have these like marginal level NBA players, like people who are looking to make the league, but they have NBA experience, which I actually think is pretty helpful, right? Like these are players who have played roles in the past, who have identifiable skills, who may be able to do something for you. And I guess my statement / question just to give to you is, again, it's marginal. I don't think that this really tips whether the Blazers are a championship team or not. But I do think that having all of these like potential NBA level players at the very end of your roster can be helpful if you have a couple of injuries and you need to tread water for a while, because that may be the difference between getting the 6 seed or the 9 seed. I mean, we know that that can be separated by just a couple of games. If you can win just a couple more games because you have NBA level talent and not like no name McNo-Namerson filling in on the third game in 5 days type of thing in the middle of the regular season, that can actually have playoff implications. So to that, I actually appreciate that it looks like the Blazers will have a team full of NBA players, and I think that is a marginally good thing. So just credit to Neil Olshey. For all of you who say I don't give credit to Neil Olshey, we know that that's not true. I just don't like him overall. But yeah, credit to him for that. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. And so second to last here, and we'll kind of go through these last two here a little quickly. Rick Adelman, famed Blazers coach, famed Blazers player, technically,
famed
if you want to say.
Blazers mustache.
This is true.
Strongest mustache in Blazers history outside of Clyde Drexler.
He was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. And so over the course of Adelman's career, he was head coach for 23 seasons, 5 different teams, retired back in 2014 during his 6 seasons coaching the Blazers from 89 to 94, which is when, I'll say I really got into basketball, which makes sense because I was 3 when he started coaching. Yeah. He coached the Blazers to a record of 291 and 154, second most wins behind his stint with the Kings, and two finals appearances during that 90s run. So.
Most number of finals appearances by any Blazers coach. It sucks because if it were not for Michael Jordan, the Blazers probably would have won at least one championship. I also
how many teams can say that? I think the Suns are looking back at that.
That's true. I also think that like you could argue that the Blazers management blew up the team a little too soon. I think the Blazers could have maybe had like a late prime push, rather than rejiggering and kind of making Clyde Drexler feel like he needed to bounce. I think there was probably some opportunity there. So yeah, Rick Adelman, it's hard to say that he's the greatest coach in team history because Jack Ramsey won a championship and he was an incredible coach. And a lot of, actually, it's interesting, Ramsey, a lot of the philosophical underpinnings of him as a coach is stuff that you see in the modern NBA now, which is respecting your players.
Space and pace too.
Space and pace, respecting your players. Like he was not like a disciplinarian yeller type of person. Like he was as much as he needed to be, but like, yeah, he really pushed the envelope for that. But gun to my head, I think that Rick Adelman is the best coach in Blazers history because of the balance between longevity and success. So I think you could argue that. And good for him. I think that it surprised me that he wasn't already in the Hall of Fame.
Me too. And the Basketball Hall of Fame is the easiest Hall of Fame to get into. They literally call it the Basketball Hall of Fame because you can be in there as a good high school basketball player, good college basketball player, right. Good basketball announcer.
It was interesting too. Another person who not Blazers related, but it was really funny seeing Bill Russell inducted in the Hall of Fame. Like, wasn't he already in there a billion years ago? It's because he was inducted as a coach, right? Yep. And so, anyway, kudos to him. Very cool. I dig it.
Billups was there with the old title-winning Piston squad to congratulate Ben Wallace on being inducted in. So
nice. Yeah, Ben Wallace looking suave. I think I'm not going to be able to pull the joke off, so I'm not going to say it. But both him and Tim Duncan, when they were inducted, both had they were styled differently than when they played in the NBA. Let's just put it that way. Ben Wallace has the hugest hands on earth. There's like a picture of him like standing there like in a suit, and it's like, why are his hands so big? Which maybe explains why he, as an undersized center, was like defensive player of the year and got so many blocks. Right, like that was part of it. Yep. Yeah, so congratulations to them, and particularly Rick Adelman. Obviously, those were my formative Blazers years as well. Strong mustache, stronger coach. Congratulations to him.
Yep, congrats. And the final thing before we close the lid of the tickle trunk is that Lillard is back at it with throwing out Instagram posts that makes everybody say it's definitive. This is what's happening. Do you want to put any fucking stock into this? Or do you want to freak out? Do you want to affirmatively declare that, oh, look, I told you he's staying, or, oh yeah, it's
all of these like sarcastic tweets about
just get the season to start already. Just do it.
So I think that what this says, I think you said it on Twitter, and I share your thoughts, are that this definitely says that he is willing to give it a shot this year. I think that's very clear. I think that we already knew that before, right? But I think this cements, I think this is a message at Daryl Morey to be like, you're not getting me for Ben Simmons, so just like let that dream die. That's really what that means. He's going to give this a shot. I think that's totally great. I don't put any stock into it besides that, and I do think it's funny when like reporters like Aaron Fentress are like, see, I told y'all, and it's like, oh, so you're using a quote from Damian Lillard to counter a quote from Damian Lillard, because it was
I did that, and the thing I was told is, but he said this now. He said that other one of I'm not certain about about my future in the past before I'm like, that was a month and a half ago. That was like
2 seconds ago, right? Like,
so I'm sorry again, if I'm Damian Lillard, I'm not sitting here looking at, no offense, I still maintain Neil O'Shea did a decent offseason. I think that without the shadow of Damian Lillard being disappointed and our fear of that he's going to leave if there's not a genuine title chase this year, we would rank this offseason a lot better than what we're ranking it now. But there's these underlying conditions for it. Neil did okay. I mean, for me, he did okay. I would move him from like having a C minus off season to like a B minus. I'm not talking he knocked it out of the park, A plus. But so with this, as you were saying, I do find it funny. It's like, oh yeah, all these changes. Okay, but there's been good moves. And I maintain that this roster is significantly more balanced than what we've seen in the past. You all know my love of balance. There's some interchangeability. We also have no idea what kind of system.
Are you a Libra? Are you the scale?
Sagittarius.
Oh, that would be such synchronicity if you were in fact the scale, right? That's the scale, right? Libra? Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. No, I'm the archer.
Fair enough.
But and so it's this, I hate this effing dissecting Instagram posts and using whatever the latest quote is to make a definitive statement about what the hell is going on.
And like the thing that I think is most funny is, again, this is about, I mean, these are human beings, right? Like Damian Lillard's opinions and his thoughts about this stuff are necessarily complex because this is not an easy thing to think through. This is about his legacy, about his life, the decisions where he moves his family. It's about what he wants people to think of him 20 years from now. Like, this is all very complex. And, I just find it very interesting when people a couple months ago are like, well, we don't think he's leaving despite what he's saying now because he's been so loyal. And now people are saying, see, because of what he's saying now, he's not leaving. It's like, well, again, you can't pick one.
Is he going to say something different in a month? He's going to say something different in a month and a half?
Probably.
Season gets off to a shitty start. How do you know he's not going to say at the trade deadline, get me the fuck out of here?
Right. And here's the other thing too. You floated this theory, and I think that it gives this theory more weight, which is that Neil O'Shea basically pulled Dame aside and said, look, I'm doing everything I can, but when you make this stuff public, it reduces my leverage. And I think
Ben Simmons.
Right. And exactly. And I think that this Instagram post, if you want to be very cynical or maybe strategic, this plays into trying to give Neil O'Shea more leverage. And I think that it successfully did that. Look at the national narrative about Damian Lillard and Ben Simmons now. Damian Lillard has now been moved into a different category of he's not available right now. But Ben Simmons definitely is. That's
is now telling the Sixers that it's not my job to fix my trade value, while simultaneously tanking his fucking trade value.
Which I think says a lot. Again, I hate giving credit to Neil O'Shea. I think that it pains me to do it. I think credit to Neil Olshey.
Twice in one episode, folks. Twice.
It's unbelievable. I know.
This.
I'm going nuts. I think that it's a credit to Neil Olshey, his relationship with Damian Lillard. I think that this is reflective of a level of trust, right? I believe that this is strategic. I believe this does have to do with rebuilding some of the leverage that Neil Olshey lost when Damian Lillard went public. And I believe that there's a level of trust between Neil Olshey and Damian Lillard. I think that that is reflective of that. This says everything about the beginning of this season in particular, and maybe this season more broadly, but this says nothing about after this season. That's how I take this Instagram post.
Yep. It's about how I take it too. So nothing's definitive. Everything can change. He said something different. Where I've always stood is that in seasons past, anytime Lillard has been asked about trade rumors and all that stuff, he has very definitively and firmly come out. I'm in Portland. I'm staying in Portland. This is where I want to retire. I want to be the greatest Blazer of all time.
Planning the parade route down Broadway.
I have no desire to leave. These trade rumors are stupid. As opposed to this time in this offseason where he has stated, I'm going to be here next season. I don't have any plans yet on what my future holds.
Well,
there's a little more vagueness to his answers than there has been in the past.
He even said, like 2 months ago, he said, I don't even know what I'm doing this year. Right. Like that's like, so that's, you have to consider that. Anyway. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah. All right. So we're closing the tickle trunk. I'm not going to talk about the tickle trunk anymore. We'll set it aside.
Goodness.
I'll set it aside. We'll bring the tickle trunk back out later on in the season. It's always good to put some stuff in there for later on. Slow news day stuff.
Can we do like Trailblazing did and get a collab with Taste Tickler, the sandwich shop, and do a Taste Tickle trunk? Maybe we can get our own sandwich. That'd be pretty dope. I will get Taste Tickler on the phone. By the way, Taste Tickler has been around for a really long time. They have great sandwiches. I'm also uncomfortable with their name. I just feel like the word tickle is a weird word. Whatever. Thank you for closing the trunk. It's terrifying to me. It's got to stay over there.
If you can bring us the tickle trunk brought to you by Taste Tickler.
Yep. The Taste Tickler trunk. I think it's great.
Yeah, that is also a tongue twister, but I will be the one to say it. So if you can make that happen, we'll do it.
Taste Tickler trunk tongue twister. I like it. Yes.
Moving on to a little bit of collaborations. All I'm going to say for this in the second segment is that, as the season's coming up, people are getting a lot more engaged in basketball. We're reaching out, and you and I are very big on local stuff.
Yep.
And so we've been talking to some local artists and local business people, and upcoming, we will be holding some contests. And all I will say for right now is that it is very important that you follow us on the We Like the Blazers social media pages.
Yeah.
And make sure that you I don't care if you you can downvote the podcast. You can give us a thumbs down. Just subscribe. Hey,
they cannot. Hey, hold on a second.
I would prefer the like and subscribe.
To give us a thumbs down.
I would like the like and subscribe, but that sounds so cliche. So, I mean, I'm just letting them know that if they dislike and subscribe, they will still have an opportunity. But in this space, we will be coming up with news here in the very near future on what exactly we're going to be doing as far as trying to engage a little more with our listeners.
That's good. We're going to give it away now, but not now, but a little bit later. So yeah, get ready for that.
Yes, this is your preparation for that. So where I want to close the show now is that the biggest bit of Blazers news and something had been hanging over, our heads since the split from NBC Sports Northwest is and the Blazers signing their deal with Root Sports is what were going to be the streaming options for Root Sports. And it came out that Root signed a distribution deal with Fubo. Okay. Fubo
If
TV.
They were hilariously oversized jeans, it would be Fubo, but in this case it is Fubo.
Okay, Fubo TV to carry their Pacific Northwest regional network of sports. So that includes the Kraken, that includes the Mariners, that includes the Portland Timbers, the Seattle Sounders, and the Portland Trailblazers. And so they are on there. A lot of people don't have. As far as I know, the popular ones are Hulu TV or Hulu Live, and because Hulu has live sports, as Dame would like to tell you.
Do they? I did not know that.
A little money gun. There you go. And then YouTube TV. Root Sports is on neither of them. Root Sports used to be just carried on like the Direct TV, their app, their stream, or their AT&T TV. They are now working their way into more streaming options, and as of now, they are only on Fubo. The base package for that is about $65 a month. You get 150 to 200 some odd channels. I'm a fan of that because it does have Pac-12 network, which YouTube TV does not. So that would be a bonus for you and I out here. But I think
you're a fan of $65 a month?
Okay, if you consider it this way. So right now, I think I've touched on this before. I have YouTube TV, but I am not the one that pays for YouTube TV. Ryan Green has YouTube TV. Well, over on the Blazer Tech podcast, with YouTube TV, you can have 5 people that are on it. And you can have 3 streams going shared at a time. So Brandon paid for storage space. I paid for RSS feeds, and Ryan Green paid for YouTube TV. And that was how we split it. So we had all gotten access to it for free. And that was kind of like our share of the pot per se. Ryan Green, if the Blazers and Root Sports do not end up on YouTube TV, will be canceling it. And that is currently, I think his plan is he's paying $70 a month for that. Now, keep in mind, he's paying $70 a month for that. And me and my wife are the ones that watch the most amount of TV on that. But the downside with Fubo is that you're only allowed 2 streams at once, as opposed to 3. So there's a little bit of that. You are allowed, in network sharing. But this kind of leads me to, I wanted to talk about like how you stream things. How many different streaming packages or services are you signed up for overall over the gambit?
Yeah, we have Netflix. We have Amazon Prime Video, and I think that's it. So okay. It's not going to happen, but I just wish that they would go to Amazon Prime Video, but it's not going to happen.
Well, the Blazers did, from my understanding, try to reach out to Amazon Prime, but what Amazon is trying to do is get leagues and not the whole league, and not regional. And you see that I believe they carry the WNBA and they carry it as a league as a whole. So Amazon is thinking bigger with that. They just recently paid out a crap ton of money to get Thursday night football rights.
Yeah. So, can I complain about price yet, or is there still more info because I'm ready to complain
in a smidge, because I think I can gently lead you there. So like with my streaming, so we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Amazon Prime, we have HBO Max, we have Disney Plus, but I don't pay for all of those. And what I have found the best way to do with streaming is that, so my wife and I, we pay for Netflix and Amazon Prime, and the Amazon Prime we just get because we have that for ordering things. So you just get that subscription as being a Prime member. Yep. So we pay for Netflix, but we share our Netflix password with other people. They pay for part of a Disney Plus thing. We get access to that. It's kind of like this hodgepodge of, I'll pay for this. Here you can have my password for that. You pay for that. You give me your password for this, and kind of share it amongst the pot so that you're not looking at getting a streaming service to watch like cable per se at $65 a month, plus paying an additional $60 a month for all your other streaming options on top of your, $100 a month or whatever for internet.
Right.
So you can do it smartly. It's possible, and streaming has allowed that, but I'm still slightly bitter that there is not a better a la carte option for certain things.
And that's, I agree. And I think it's hard for me to justify when I have gigabit internet here, which is great. Strong recommend. And I think it's $60 a month. How can I justify getting a streaming service where I would only use it to watch the Blazers, and it's more expensive than my gigabit internet, which, by the way, I don't know if you heard, Ryan, I can access virtually anything using my internet connection, whereas with this, I can only access what they have. So it's super frustrating. I had a totally legit streaming service that I had been using for many, many years, and it finally discontinued, which I am sad about. And that was like $130 for the year. I felt like that was very fair. I felt like that is reflective of the amount of times I'm going to use it, right? Like I'm going to use this a couple times a week for a few hours. Like, so whereas
you're underutilizing it then.
Well, I mean, I don't have time. Like, hey man, I'm trying to get into disc golf shape. I'm trying to do yoga now. Like I'm becoming a different
get into
person.
Below Deck Med. Vanderpump Rules is getting ready to come back. There's the Masked Singer, dude. I fit a lot of stuff into my day, and me and my wife do a lot of activities and a lot of travel, but also at the same point in time, if you were to look at the amount of TV and the things that we watch, you would assume that we live our lives on a 36-hour day schedule.
Well, I think, and if Cassie were a bigger sports person, we might utilize some of that stuff more. But I mean, we watch shows like Survivor and The Great British Bake Off and Project Runway. And right now we're watching White Collar, which I don't know. I never. What?
I love that show. I watched it when it was new. Have you ever watched Suits?
No.
Ooh, dive into Suits.
It's funny that you say Suits because that's what's his face. So is calls FBI agents are Suits.
Yep.
Anyway, so the point being, I'm glad it's available to people who have TV or people who have direct TV. I'm glad it's available for the two people who are using Fubo. But for everybody else, this kind of sucks. And I am hopeful that maybe it goes on to some other service that is, I don't know, that we could use it for something else. Again,
but saying for everybody else it kind of sucks, that's not necessarily true, because when the Blazers weren't on Root and they were on or NBC Sports Northwest, and even with YouTube TV and when PlayStation View was still a thing, and Hulu TV and all that stuff, the overall market share and whatnot for the Blazers was something like 1.1 million eyeballs, as opposed to now with Fubo and them being on direct TV, it widens up this market share to, I want to say it's like 2.7. So you've over doubled the eyeballs that are on your team. So it doesn't necessarily suck, but there is this change that needs to be made of a lot of people going, all right, well, should I cancel my YouTube TV and get Fubo? The other benefit with these streaming packages is that you're not locked into a contract. So you are taking maybe 6 months of your year to where you'd only have to pay for that.
I can't justify spending like $400 on, it seems like a waste. And like, I'm not saying that I'm like the best with my money in the whole world. Like I buy things like jerseys, right? Like I buy disc golf discs. So I get it. Like I'm not like a perfect personal finance person to get advice from. I'm just saying, like, it seems like a lot of money. And also I think it's fine to say that the way it was before kind of sucks, and it kind of sucks still. Like I should be, okay, here's what I think. And this gets into politics.
Better than Denver, at least.
That's true. Better than Denver. Here's what
Avalanche
I think.
TV, get your shit together.
This goes into my political philosophy. I wish that this country had better consumer regulations, because if I go to Subway, I can purchase a 6-inch spicy Italian sandwich. I don't have to buy chips and a cookie and a 6-inch something else and a drink. I can just buy the 6-inch sandwich. You're telling me if I want to watch the Blazers games, which in this case is the 6-inch spicy Italian, I have to buy all this other crap too. I don't think in 2021 that doesn't make sense, and it's not fair. And I wish that we could regulate the hell out of it to make it so that, okay, now I want to watch the Blazers. I'm paying $15 a month, $20. That's much more fair. $65 a month for one thing is insane.
Yeah, to do the a la carte method does make a lot more sense. And I think NBC Sports Northwest in the last 2 seasons tried to do something like that with their like Gold Pass or their whatever they call it. But even for that, it was $14 to get select games. You didn't even get all the games. And so, there does need to be, I think, in the days of the internet and in streaming, it should be a lot easier to go through and be able and pick and choose your channels that you want, as opposed to sticking to the old ways of the cable days where you had to pick your package. Do I want 50 channels? Do I want 100 channels? Do I want 150 channels? Do I want 250 channels? And you end up having to get that 250 channels because 3 that you absolutely love are in no other package, but now you have to basically pay for these 7 different Telemundo stations that you will never watch.
Imagine if this applied. I mean, really, when people, I invite all of you to think about applying that to any other thing that you buy and how ridiculous it would be. It would be ridiculous. I want to buy a used car. Well, you also have to buy a bike and a skateboard and a toaster. That's wild. No, I just want a car. So anyway, Oh, well, I'm glad there's something. Hopefully there's something else that comes out. In the meantime, I will be keeping my options open.
Yeah. And if not, come the end of the season, you and I are splitting a FUBU package.
Yeah, we are. All right.
That's all I got. That's all I got for now.
Well, that's great.
I think we'll have talk off air. There may be an episode that we'll have coming up sometime this week. Next weekend, we are taking a break.
We'll talk off air.
Next weekend, I will be out of town. I am celebrating my 6-year wedding anniversary.
Congratulations. I'm at a disc golf tournament next weekend. So that's,
I had to make a last minute change because originally in my year to pick, the wife and I alternate years for picking our vacation destination so that we don't have to come to an agreement. It's where if I want to go this place one year it's my turn, we go that place. She gets the next year.
So this year it's the tickle trunk.
Well, I hope every anniversary I get to go in the tickle trunk. But no, this year I had picked South Lake Tahoe. And
nice.
Not nice because then South Lake Tahoe caught on fire with the Candor fire. And the fire line literally got its way up to 3/4 of a mile away from the resort that we were going to stay at. So we had to bail on that reservation and last minute change. So
that sucks. I hope you got your money back.
Yes, we did. And I think for the same price, we picked a different destination. I'm going back to Arizona. We're going to hang out at this beautiful golf resort in Scottsdale. So
great. Oh, that's awesome. The only thing that will set on fire anything there is the sun. So enjoy baking in the sun. If you want to reach out to us, you can always do that. You can hit us up at weliktheblazers@gmail.com or at weliktheblazers.com. Or if you're on Twitter, it's just Like the Blazers. You can find me at GoldnerPDX. You can find that dude at The Witty Ryan. And as you said before, we would love your subscription. But as I will say, I would love your thumbs up or your likes. If you dislike the show, you can do whatever you want, but I would appreciate the likes are more important. We're going to be doing a giveaway at some point in the not too distant future. So you want to stay tuned with us and check us out. I am Brandon. That's Ryan. That's it for today. And go Blazers.
Go Patriots.